Yeah, such a great, Julia and we just turned in the manuscript for our next book called Outplay, which is about sports performance for 12 to 18-year-olds. Where we've got to help the parents become sort of the human performance director of their families. And we've got to do some basic things right. And one of the conversations we're having is this long-term athletic development, right? LTAD. And I'll point at someone named Jeremy Frisch on the internet, Jeremy_Frisch. Watch what his programming looks like. He works with a lot of young kids, and it is so much hopping, gaming, floor is lava. Let's dive over this mat and roll. Let's crawl. Let's do monkey bars. What we're seeing is, and you actually made an assumption, your kids might go out and play, but actually kids are not engaged in free play. They're engaged in homework and sitting and TV, and it's no one's fault, right? We would have done the same thing. Instead, we're drinking from the hose and right, doing all the other stuff. But what we're seeing is that kids aren't engaged in free play. And the terminus of that is right now we're seeing an ACL epidemic. Right now we're seeing, like you remember, and I'm not just pining for the old days, and this isn't just anecdotal, but how many kids in your high school had torn ACLs? Do you guys remember? One?
I know one girl, one soccer player.
One girl, she was a gymnast, right? She did something crazy. We had one kid who tore his ACL, one kid in 4 years of school. And now we're seeing that the surgeons are reporting that they used to have to use drills to get into drill the bone holes for the ACL graft. Now they just core the bone by hand. They use like a corkscrew and they just do it by hand because the bones are so soft. So now you have to ask, why is that bone soft? Well, we haven't loaded it for years, jumping and landing and being knuckleheads, right? Girls and boys. We haven't done all the nutrition. We're not getting the sunlight. You're not, you don't have any micronutrients and fiber on board. You're not sleeping. We start to see this kind of perfect storm. So some of the things we can do with our kids is mandate outside play. And that means you have to take them out and play with them. You can't just be like, go outside and play while dad's on Facebook, right? You got to go and throw the Frisbee and be the model. You got to play, pike, pickleball is the greatest. Pickleball will save America. That's what I think. I think it'll get people outside, competing, playing. And it's gotten, pickleball is not even fun anymore. It's gotten so competitive and savage, but like go play with your kids and you'll see that like, hey, we're cutting, we're playing, we're loading. Your kids should be barefoot as much as they can, right? You really have to have your kids sitting on the floor more. And what you'll see is you can totally model those behaviors. Eating dinner together as a family every night to the extent that that's possible. And you have, I have a 5'11" water polo goalie junior who plays, like we have to sneak in on the K box. We use the Kratos flywheel. Like I got 30 minutes to do some power snatches, some Kratos flywheel squats before she goes. We're just squeezing it in. We feed her dinner at like 5 and then she eats another dinner when she comes home. Those things are tough, I get, but let's go ahead and put first principles first. And you'll see that you don't have to do extra special things. Should you have a pull-up bar in your house? 100%. That the kids walk underneath it and play and it's just background noise. And it's that kind of thinking. There's a thing out there called the Gib board, Gibboard, like Gibbon and Slackboard. And it's basically a mini slack line over looks like a skateboard, right? A turned up skateboard. It's a slack line you keep in your living room. And just put it in front of the living room while you're making, dinner, while you're making breakfast. So we need to think about constraining the environment so that the organism is doing and getting what it needs. And I will point at the athletic development of Jeremy Frisch because it's unbelievable.
Yeah, we've to touch on that exact thing. We have the board, and then we took a room. It's almost like it would be like considered a reading room. And we mounted, and it's probably 10 feet wide by up to the ceiling. And it was only $300. So it was an investment, but it like we've seen, it has like one section. So 1 3-foot section is a rock wall. Now it's only going up to 9 feet or 8 feet. Then one is like a stall bar that leads up to then a little like pull up bar. And then the other is like rope that's entangled in between. And so it's 3 distinct sections. And then we have a trampoline and then the Gib board. And to see a 2-year-old, like our 2-year-old who's now 3, and then our other 2-year-old now, the middle one, how quick, like just having that there. And then we're sitting typically feeding the newborn in like a chair or on the ground to see how in a couple of months, and they start slow, but over a couple months, like they will go in there for an hour and they're just, our oldest now sees she can hang for like 20 seconds on it. And she just sits up there and I'll go in without, it's not even like she wants us to look at her. I'll just go in there and she's just hanging from it. And we have like a little mat or like a little mattress in case they fall. But
yes.
Yeah, to see how naturally I love what you said, just set up more of the ecosystem and they will do it naturally. Because then you're not having to force them like, let's go to the park and do it. They love that as well. But like when it's just part of their ecosystem, kids are little magnets. They naturally are going to find all the nooks and crannies to kind of play in whatever environment they're in.
100%. Look, adults need some slightly different things. I need you to load. I want everyone to check out this, I think it's this Finnish company called OmniGym. I'm obsessed with OmniGym. And they've figured out how to make like outdoor public weightlifting equipment. And basically they just slide a weight on a big lever, and legit back squatting, bench, standing press. Like it's legit strength equipment. I don't have any affiliation, but now I'm thinking, how can I get OmniGym into my community? Because if kids walk by and see that, they're going to lift weights. And what you just pointed at is that the human being is a self-organizing system. And if you start hanging, then I don't have to ever remind you to hang. Erwan Lacour, the founder of MoveNet, he used to ask this question at his seminars, like who can do a pull-up? And like everyone raised their hand and can do a pull-up. He's like, did you have a tree in your backyard? And the same hands are up. And the people who couldn't do a pull-up didn't have a tree in their backyard. They didn't climb. And so you can see is that this exposure early on, like even the wisdom of the stupid presidential physical fitness test, we got kids hanging, got kids doing flexed arm hang, isometrics. We just need that exposure. And I'll tell you, as an adult, if you're listening to this, I don't care if you can do a pull-up, but if you're not exposing yourself to hanging, you won't have a healthy shoulder. You won't have a neck that works. You won't have an upper back that works. You're leaving so much capacity on the table. You got to hang.